Am I the asshole for laughing at my girlfriend because she texted her boss that she wished he was her dad? She started a new job about 6 months ago. She always talks about her boss. She has a good relationship with him and it's the first great job she landed after leaving college. We were getting drunk and I was almost asleep when she texted her boss that she wished he had been her dad. She then realized what she had done and shook me awake and showed me the text. I couldn't stop myself from laughing loudly. Her boss saw the text and texted back, "Okay, thanks," and I saw that and I laughed again. We went to sleep and she woke up and apologized to him. She is very upset with me and she is even more embarrassed now. She is mortified about what he will think of her if even her own girlfriend laughed at her, and she said she hated how I reacted and it was not funny at all. I feel really guilty because I know that her relationship with her dad is terrible, and even if I was drunk I should have had the sense to not laugh like a child when she was showing me something like embarrassing. And now let's move on the comments. Not the asshole. You were both drunk. I think she just doesn't want to blame her drunk self for the embarrassment and it's just easier to redirect her anger towards your drunken reaction. I'm riding off the back of this response. She made a drunken mistake. She just doesn't want to admit fault because it's embarrassing. The more she makes it a thing, the longer it will take for the weirdness to die down. Rule #1 in drinking is that your phone anyway. Not the asshole laughing is a common reaction to something absurdly horrifying, like what she did. It's just that initial burst of a whole spectrum of horrible realizations and emotions in the span of a few seconds. Apologize because you genuinely didn't mean to make her feel worse. You were also drunk, and the same lack of clarity that caused her to send that text is what caused you to react the way you did. Maybe don't mention that last part. We don't really want to bring focus back to that, but just reassure her as best you can. Not the asshole. She definitely mildly overreacted. She didn't mean to send the text, and it was on a whim, but it also wasn't your fault that she sent the text. You were both intoxicated and both partook in justifiable actions whilst under the influence. I'm very sorry her relationship with her dad is bad, and I hope things got sorted with her boss. Now let's move on to the updates to see if OP worked things out with his girlfriend and what happened with her boss. Update: am I the asshole for laughing at my girlfriend because she texted her boss that she wished he was her dad? I did apologize for laughing and she said it wasn't my fault and she was just embarrassed. She really didn't want to go back to work but forced herself to go to work. He did speak about it with her. He told her that she was a great employee and he liked her and told her to forget about it. He also gave her some personal advice. He told her that he understand why she felt that way as he had bad relationship with his parents and he had often been happy when people didn't yell at him and treated him with a modicum of respect. Told her that she needed to understand that people treating her with respect and basic decency was not an huge act of kindness or a favor she should be grateful for, and it was very important for understand that when people don't do that it is usually their fault rather than something inherently lacking in her. I think I love her boss now. She is so grateful and thankful when I do the most basic good girlfriend shit with her. She is surprised and happy when I don't yell when she fucks up or comfort her when she is sad. I have been telling her the same thing, and so has her therapist, and I think another person telling her that she deserves to be treated well will help her. It sounds like everything came to the best conclusion possible, and OP's girlfriend was given some needed validation. Now on to the next story. Am I the asshole for bringing up my dead daughter in an argument with my wife? My wife and I are both 44. We had a daughter when we were 19, but she passed while in high school. It took us a long time to learn to live with that pain. At my wife's work, there's a very sweet girl named Rosa, 23, from Ecuador. She immigrated 5 years ago after getting married. Her husband worked security for my wife. He was such a thoughtful and hard-working boy. We'd been close to him since he was 13, and he lived with his uncle renting our basement. Unfortunately, he passed in an accident last year while Rosa was pregnant. Rosa gave birth to a beautiful baby, but she's been very depressed and isolated, and her only BO family is an aunt. A few days ago, she came to my wife and I telling us she wanted to start school, to make a life for herself. She got admitted into a university a city over to start in the summer. The big thing was that she asked us to take in her daughter. Now we love Rosa so much, and while I would take in her daughter, it's not like she's abandoning her. My wife doesn't want to because the idea of giving up a child is unfathomable to her. Because of our daughter, she started proposing alternate things like Rosa going to a nearby school, taking online courses, doing a trades program for her company and other stuff. We wound up arguing about it because Rosa really needs this. Yes, it may take her out of our lives for a while, but if we tie her down to a life that's hurting her, that could damage her. And the fact that she's coming to us shows how much she trusts us. I tried to frame this issue to my wife in terms of what if our daughter was alive and going through this. My wife got very angry with me for doing that and said our daughter wasn't at all that I could just use. On one hand, I know she's hurt, but on the other, I didn't see what else I could say to try and make her understand. This seems like a very delicate situation. Let's move on to the comments to see what advice the Reddit community gave OP. Sorry for your loss, but you're the asshole, big time. 1. This conversation has literally nothing to do with your daughter, nothing at all. And bringing up your daughter was just a form of trying to guilt and manipulate your wife into doing what you want. 2. She said no, this means no, you cannot force someone into a carriage either role that they do not want. This is not an easy decision to make. If you do bring this child in, you will be starting all over. 3. You didn't take time to think about what happens when mom gets her life together and wants her child back. Do you really think it's fair to ask your wife to have to go through another loss after it took so long to learn to live again? You're the asshole. Thing to consider. You say Rosa wants you to take the child, but isn't abandoning her, that this isn't forever. So you want your wife to take on baby and care for, love it to have to give it back later. Come on, she already lost one child. Rosa is not your daughter, and to use your daughter to make your point was cruel. Even you have to understand that. If you can't make her understand without using your dead daughter to guilt her to your point of view, it's not an argument to be having. Who is going to be giving up work to take on this baby? You going to be a stay-at-home father? I suspect not. There are some amazing fathers in the world, but in the majority of relationships 80+% of the child care and organizing is done by the woman. Maybe your wife doesn't want to give up her life. This whole situation is far more complicated than you think. Your wife thinks Rosa giving up a baby would be a mistake, and you are being naive if you think it isn't. Yes, that leaped out at me too. Is OP going to be the one to do all of the work of raising the baby? If not, he should sit himself down. His wife has said she doesn't want to take in and raise the baby. That should be enough. The situation is messy and has the potential to become extremely complicated and damaging to everyone involved. Honestly, this whole thing seems like magical thinking to me, that if they do this, OP and his wife get a new baby to raise, and the world somehow rights itself and goes back to the ways it was. Except that's impossible. It's not uncommon after a traumatic loss, and it just makes me wonder if OP ever got help for his grief. There are so many better ways to help Rosa, like offering financial support. If OP and wife could afford to raise the kid, they could instead offer to pay for her childcare while Rosa is in school. That might make it easier for her to move and take the baby with her. Depending on how far away she's moving, they might offer to take the baby for the weekend occasionally when Rosa needs to study. These things would be better than raising the kid for 4 years then giving her back, which sounds like a nightmare for everyone involved, including the kid. You're the asshole. I didn't see what else I could say to try and make her understand. Understand what, exactly? That you really want to help this girl? Which means, you just used your dead daughter as an emotional tool to manipulate your wife. Rosa isn't your daughter. So yes, you did abuse the memory of her, since she was not relevant to your point. What you should have said is that you'd really enjoy having a child around because you miss your daughter. You feel like helping Rosa will be something that you can do to help your daughter retroactively. Maybe you think it will be a nice tribute to her. But these are things you need to realize about yourself and communicate. Also, this is a huge thing you aren't considering. Your wife would likely be saddled with all the work of raising that child. If she doesn't want to do that, that's the end of the discussion. You don't get to manipulate her into that. You're the asshole. Well, it seems like the Reddit community was in solid agreement that OP was the asshole. Let's move on to the update to see how OP solved this situation. Update: am I the asshole for bringing up my dead daughter in an argument with my wife? So, you all were right and I apologized to my wife about bringing up our daughter in the argument, and we had a talk. We called over Rosa and told her we couldn't take in her baby. She started crying, and my wife had to console her. Rosa admitted that being an orphan and seeing how we treated her over the years made her see us as parents, and she wanted that for her baby cause she couldn't give it without her husband. We made Rosa and her baby stay over that night cause we got scared for her. We had another private talk and we admitted we didn't want Rosa to leave our lives and we were scared of what could happen to her all alone with a baby. So, we came up with a plan, and in the morning we presented it to Rosa. We said we'd pay for whatever babysitting, daycare or whatever for the baby where she went, and even her tuition. And then we offered an adult adoption to Rosa, because my wife and I agreed that over the years we have come to see her like our child, and the idea of her leaving was breaking our hearts. The way her eyes lit up and how she hugged us both made all of us cry. Even the baby started crying cause of the noise. She FaceTimed her aunt that night and told her the news, and boy was that woman happy. She literally started singing our praises in Quechua till she started crying. I also met and told her husband's uncle at a bar, and he gave me a bear hug telling me he was so happy that we could officially be brothers. When he saw my wife, he yelled at me her manner in a very flamboyant way and ran to hug her. We've told my wife's family too, and they're all happy. From my family, only my grandmother knows, and she's happy for us. I'm posting this because we've filled all the forms and hopefully soon Rosa will legally be our daughter. She'll be moving in with us too, or at least until she heads to university. So I guess the way it wound up is we now have a daughter and a granddaughter. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us. What were your thoughts on today's stories? Be sure to leave them in the comments below. And be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps this channel grow.